What's new, crew? Here, my name's Cassandra. It is a rainy Saturday here. My husband's upstairs with the kids, and while he's doing those things, I'm tackling the food storage today. You're gonna see. There's a lot of things happening behind me here. I'm gonna turn the camera just a smidge. But this is just a big construction site right now. So there's a lot of material, a lot of tools, everything happening down here, and just happens to be butting up against the canning shelf here. There's a couple of things like air filters and some other random parts and faucets and things that ended up on top of the jars. I want to get everything moved over. I'm not wiping them down. They are full of drywall dust and other things that have been floating around just as we're finishing off in construction and making kind of like a cold room, a storage room, and just adding on and finishing off the basement a little bit. So I'm not wiping anything off because we're not done. The drywall people are coming again next weekend to finish drywalling, so there's no point in wiping it off if I'm just gonna have to wipe it off again. But I do have a Sharpie because over preservation season I was terrible at marking things, and my husband wants me to come down and just organize everything. We just got these shelves built, so I want to organize things, like things with like things, get everything kind of put together, and then label any jars that aren't currently labeled, get everything ready. And then in another video we're going to come back down here. I'm going to do a pantry tour, and we're going to talk about all of the things that we have down here on like the preservation side of things. So let's go ahead and get going just really easily here. A couple really easy things we can do is take some of these things off here that don't need to be on here and find a different home for them. We did when we were picking these jars up, because if you remember a couple of weeks ago they were just sprawled all across the floor. My husband built this shelf just out of scrap wood that we had laying around left over from different projects, and then a storage crate that they were going to throw in the dumpster at work. And he's like, can I bring that home? They said absolutely, go ahead and grab it. So that's what this is made out of. So it was essentially free, which is something that I absolutely love. Well, the lifestyle that we live is just taking bits and pieces of whatever you have laying around and making it work. So all up here things are pretty well here. I'm not going to label any of the spaghetti sauce because just by looking at it everybody knows what that is, and there's over 100 jars of this, so that would take a good amount of time. But what I do want to do is go ahead and start down here, which is where most of the organizing needs to happen, because we did a pretty good job up here organizing things because we put all the things that we canned in bulk up top. So let's go ahead and start moving our way here down the line of the shelf. When we put everything down here, we tried to put all the jams and jellies and things down here, or just kind of together. So what I want to do is get everything sorted and then come back and start labeling. So we got some apple butter, some Sloppy Joe sauce, which is a brand new thing for me and I'm very excited to give a go. Okay, so this whole crate is just Sloppy Joes. When you see the kind of cloudiness on the jar, it's not really picking up on camera, but there's definitely a film on it. That's just because I have hard water and I forgot to put vinegar in my water bath canner before I canned it. So my jars are a little gunky, a little crummy, and it doesn't help that there's drywall dust everywhere, so it's really sticking to that like layer of grime that happened on the outside of these, but we'll get that kind of cleared off later. It's not a task for today. Right now we're just organizing, but lots of Sloppy Joe mix. I'm going to be saving these boxes. I'm just putting them underneath the shelf here as I get them cleared off. Now, these are jars of just apples and syrup. These aren't labeled, so I'm going to label these. Another box cleared out. I'm just going to add it to my pile there. Now we have a ton of really beautiful apple butter. I just found a recipe on Pinterest that is an apple butter glazed pork loin that looks fantastic. I definitely want to do that because I have a whole freezer full of pork. So I'm going to try to find a pork loin. If I don't have a pork loin, I'm probably just going to do maybe over pork chops or something. I think that'll be just as delicious. But I'm going to get my apple butter laid out here as well. And luckily, I did label my apple butters. I also have apple sauce. I think I also have cranberry applesauce, which is fantastic. I think I'm going to put the cranberry applesauce in the middle, separating my apple butter and my normal applesauce. That way it acts almost like a little barrier and we don't get them confused with something that they're not. That way we're not accidentally going to grab an apple butter or grabbing an applesauce or something like that. So I'm going to use these kind of as a buffer, I think. And then we've got another box cleared out. So already we've got 3 boxes taken care of, which feels really, really good. Okay, I've got another box back here full of Sloppy Joes. I'm not sure what this jar is. It's not labeled, but it's in the box with Sloppy Joe mix. So I'm going to assume that this is also Sloppy Joes. So just to make more room, I'm going to get rid of the rest of these Sloppy Joes and put them on top here where I've been putting my Sloppy Joe mix. We might have to do some refiguring a little bit. So I think I'm just going to get everything up where I need it to go, and then I'll worry about making it pretty on the shelf. Getting another box out of here. That way I can really worry about just making these long, beautiful lines. Okay, so we've got apple butter, apple sauce, a small apple butter, which is just delicious. I also have some cinnamon applesauce. I canned these last year. I sweetened them with a little bit of vanilla and then just a little bit of cinnamon while they were cooking down in the crock pot. So they're just a little bit different. So I'm going to make a separate row for these as well. I also have a spiced pear applesauce. That was really good as well. We really like those on top of pancakes. But I don't have that many jars left over from last year because we did a good job eating through them. And I put my old applesauce in the front here. That way we're eating these jars first. And we've got more boxes that are ready to be put down here. My boxes are taken care of now, and most things are labeled. So I'm just going to go ahead and start kind of evening things out, making them look pretty on the shelf, getting everything in those long rows. And actually this project won't take as long as I thought it would, which is great. We have some blackberry jam that I canned. I think this was my first canning project this season, actually. We went through most of those really quickly because we didn't have any. I am going to label these because I did not label, but this is a Christmas jam. I have a video on this. I'll link it down below. We canned the Christmas jam and strawberry rhubarb jam on the same day. So that's in the same video if you want to see that. And I canned them all in little jars so they'd make good gifts. I made these with the kids a couple of years ago. They didn't set. It was supposed to be a dandelion jelly. It's supposed to be like a mock honey. We have used these. It still tastes like honey, but it's more of a syrup. So we'll put this, I usually use this in baking and things. So that's how I've been using this, even though it didn't set. This was my first attempt ever at making jelly, so not everything works out, I guess, but I am gonna label these just so my husband knows what they are. So far, heading down here, we're starting with our jams. Then we have apple butter, cranberry applesauce, our apples in a light syrup, more applesauce, spiced applesauce, pear applesauce. Now, as we're getting further down the shelf here, this is all of my hot sauce. None of these are labeled. So I'm gonna label these as well. I also canned these in half pints because they make amazing Christmas gifts. So I like to be able to gift my hot sauce. I also used this hot sauce when making some of our salsas this year, and also some of our sloppy joe mix and other canned goods that we did. So I was able to use my own hot sauce mix in other canning projects, which was really exciting. Some of this is left over from last year, and some of it is this year's. Hot sauce is insanely easy to make, and if you like hot sauce, it would be a great project to kind of get under your belt, because you don't need any fancy equipment for it. And it tastes substantially better than any other hot sauce you're going to get from the store. And there are so many recipes out there. You can find one that you like, and you can make it to your preferred heat level as well. So you can make it not as hot, super hot, kind of whatever you want. So there is our beautiful hot sauce. Continuing to move down the line, this is where we're getting into salsas. Most of these are labeled. I did a couple different salsa recipes this year just because I wanted to try some different recipes to figure out which ones we liked the best. So I did make a couple different varieties. I also decided to can them in some different sizes, so I have some pints and also some quarts, so that I could have a little bit of variety on the shelf. I also made salsa freezer bags. We did those together in a video as well, and I have bags of frozen salsa kits in the freezer, so that when I want to make some fresh salsa, all I have to do is take those bags out, put it in the food processor, kind of whiz it up a little bit, and we'll have a beautiful fresh salsa as well. So some of these aren't labeled. So I'm going to label these as well, and I'm going to put my different varieties of salsas in different lines. We already went through quite a bit of these. This one specifically, this is the house salsa out of the Ball Canning Cookbook. This is our new favorite salsa recipe. I've been using it probably weekly to make Mexican rice. It's one of our favorite sides. And then I also did some salsa verde. We haven't tried this yet, but I think this isn't going to be something that we eat with like chips and dip. I think this is going to be more of like a recipe enhancer, putting these in like enchiladas or chalupas or things like that. So I'm going to put these down here, and those are already labeled. A new recipe that I did this year as well was a Mexican, it's ranchera sauce. I did a couple of these as well. I also did some quarts of these. These are labeled, which is great. So I'm going to put these down here. I'm just going to put all of my pints in front and my quarts in the back. Now we're heading into pickles. Oh, I found another ranchera sauce. I'm assuming we're pretty much only going to use these as like an enchilada sauce. So I'm excited to have these. We don't need enchiladas too often, and I made quite a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 jars worth. So this should easily last us a while. Heading into pickles, This is where things get complicated because I have some pickles from 22 and some pickles that I did this year. So I'm going to make sure that I'm putting my 22 seasoned pickles in the front and my 23 seasoned pickles in the back. Pickles are one of those things that taste better as they age anyways. So that is what I'm going to do. We also already checked these jars to make sure that they were still sealed because they were sitting on the basement floor for a while, which means as the jar cooled, sometimes the lids can pop and the seal is no longer good. When we were moving all of these off the floor and onto the shelves, we found 2 or 3, maybe it was more than that, 3 or 4 jars that the lids ended up popping, and we just threw those out. We didn't give them to chickens or anything because we didn't know how long they had been popped. So we did lose a couple of jars, but that's kind of the price you pay. I also have some jars of dilly beans from 2022 that I'm going to make a separate row of, most likely. I think I'm going to set them up here for now. And there are all of our pickles, and our first row is completely taken care of. So now we're going to move on to the upper deck here that got crowded as we kind of spread some of our jars out here. So up top here, I'm just going to scoot some things a little bit because we need a little bit more room towards the far end of our shelf. Things are a little crowded down there. I have this little pint here of pizza sauce, so I'm going to put that up here so that we have it. My husband was looking for a smaller jar the other night to dip. I don't even remember what he was dipping. I think it was a grilled cheese or something. And he wanted a small one. He didn't want to have to open up a whole quart of pasta sauce, marinara sauce. We use it kind of one of the same here. But there we go. I think we did a good amount of shifting here. So these are all of the sloppy joes that we took from the bottom. I really want to have all of my tomato products together, which I know might look confusing, but that's how my brain works. So I would like to have it all together if I can.
We do have plans to make 2 more shelves. We have enough material left over to make 2 more shelves just like this one, and we're definitely going to need them moving forward. The garden is going to be bigger. Our family is bigger. There are 6 of us now, and as our kids are getting older, we're needing to can more and just wanting to can more. So we are going to be adding more shelves probably this winter. I just putzed around with this top shelf a little bit and was just shifting things, trying to figure out in what order I wanted everything. So I moved some stuff around a little bit, but for the most part, everything was kind of staying in the spot where it was. My husband and I, after he finished building this shelf, he helped me pick all the jars up and get them up on the shelf. So together we kind of decided where we wanted things on the shelf. So I didn't want to move things around order-wise too much because he knew where things were and I knew where things were because we took the time to do that chore or that task together. So I just wanted to kind of straighten the lines out, get everything in really nice tight rows and get everything grouped together. We're kind of going back and forth on if we want to put labels on the shelf so that we can see just kind of face value what they are. You can see here for myself, this shelf is a little high, so I can't read the tops of these jars without actually looking and pulling them down, which you can see me doing here, which for me isn't an issue. That doesn't bother me at all. For my husband, he probably wouldn't have to pull them down to look. He'd be able to read the top because he's quite a bit taller than I am. So just little things I'm kind of thinking about here as I'm just kind of looking at the shelf, taking my time and making sure that I'm getting it done the way I wanted to get it done, because I wanted to be able to do this task once and not really have to worry about it again.
So I also have this shelf which holds all of our store-bought things, and this little shelf here. This used to be where all the cans were, or all the jars. but the shelf was about to collapse. So that's why they're no longer there. But as you can see, this is just the realness of the construction project. Everything just got pushed over to this part of the basement. And because construction isn't done, you know, we're in that in-between stage where everything looks really bad before it looks better at all. But now that that's done and I still have time and everyone's happy upstairs and my husband is up there, I'm thinking I might as well take the opportunity to try to get this done. So I think I'm going to move the stuff that got pushed over here and try to quickly just organize this a little bit really quickly. I just want to do a really quick pan. I'll go over everything in detail in my pantry tour, but we got all of our cans organized and labeled, which feels awesome, or all of our jars. I keep saying cans, but we got all of these labeled, organized. All of 2022 stuff is in the front, 2023 stuff is in the back. Underneath here, these totes, my brother's currently in AIT and I told him I would store some of his stuff for him. So this is his stuff, but I got all of my boxes here. A couple of boxes that I have down here, these are all MREs. It's hard to see, but they are all MREs. And moving over to the shelf, I did get it somewhat organized. It definitely doesn't look like perfect, but these are all of our jars. I keep all of the like jam and jelly jars that I purchase from places. I keep these as well. But all of those, lots of lids, all the extra things, some canning equipment on the bottom there as well. Then moving on here, this is our store-bought shelf. This box, or this bin, we keep all like boxed items, pastas, extra baking things like nuts or chocolates. We keep them in here. That way it's an extra layer of protection for mice. So that's why this is here. The dehydrator, some of my bigger kitchen equipment, my roaster pan, my wok that I don't use all the time. Then just whatever I find, things that are on sale, like a lot of after season products, like after Thanksgiving, cans of pumpkin go on sale, so I bought some. These are all spices I need in my canning recipes, so I don't use them in my everyday cooking, but I needed them for recipes, so they're here. And you kind of get the gifs. And then up top, I put that whole box is toothpaste, some of my bags and different things. We have a bulk thing of fish fry because we fry a lot of fish here. So obviously just kind of organized everything, making it look a lot nicer, cleared the floor off in front of it. And moving on over here, this was the best I could do for right now because we do have construction things here as well. But this is where we keep all of our extra equipment. So like our meat grinders, stuff to make sausages and jerkies. Obviously a ton of egg cartons. Our neighbors are very generous and they keep their egg cartons for us and they always bring them over. Just a lot of extra equipment. This whole box is wood chips for our smoker for when we smoke fish, our vacuum sealer, and then underneath here we have more like preservation equipment, strainers, and then we have some bulk items down here, like there's pine sol, shout, pickling salt, vinegars, all that stuff is down here, and pickling lime. Pretty much everything you would need for any canning project I try to keep on hand, and we just keep them down here. Bulk cleaning products we keep down here as well, that way they're always here when we need them. But this is the best it's going to do with our current situation with the construction project going on. So it feels really good though. Everything's organized, everything's kind of pulled up to the front. I know what I have, and it's going to make once a month grocery shopping so much easier and just way more pleasurable to come down here and find what we need. Thank you guys so much for taking time on this rainy Saturday afternoon to hang out with me in my homestead pantry, getting some organizing things taken care of, getting cleaned up from preservation season, heading into winter. And I am so excited to film a detailed tour for you guys, talking about all the things that we preserved together and all of the food. I hope that you guys are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.